If you ever hear a warning siren, see smoke on the horizon, or get an emergency alert on your phone, there's one decision you have to make in seconds, and getting it wrong can be the difference between life and death. Should you run, or should you stay exactly where you are? Most people think they already know the answer. They think the safe move is always to get out. Leave the house, get in the car, put distance between yourself and the danger. That feels like common sense. But here's the problem. That instinct is wrong for some disasters, and following it in the wrong moment can actually get you killed. In some emergencies, leaving your home is the single most dangerous thing you can do. So in this video, we're going to break down exactly when you should evacuate, when you should stay put, and how to tell the difference in the middle of an actual emergency using guidance straight from FEMA, the CDC, and the National Weather Service. By the end, you'll know exactly what to do, no matter which disaster shows up at your door. Let's start with the biggest misconception out there. People assume there's one universal rule for every disaster. Danger shows up, you run. That's it. But that is not how emergency response actually works in the real world. The truth is, whether you should stay or leave depends on a few specific things. What kind of hazard you're dealing with, where the danger actually is, how much warning time you have, and whether the building you're in can actually protect you from what's coming. FEMA is very direct about this. Their guidance says the right move depends on the hazard itself and whether your shelter can keep you safe from that specific hazard. There is no one-size-fits-all answer. And that's actually the whole point of this video, because treating every disaster the same way is exactly what gets people hurt. Let's prove that with a few examples, because once you see this side by side, it's going to click immediately. Picture a wildfire moving toward a neighborhood. In that situation, waiting around is one of the worst things you can do. Fire moves fast, especially with wind behind it, and if you wait too long, your escape route can literally catch fire while you're still trying to leave. Ready.gov is blunt about this. When authorities tell you to evacuate during a wildfire, you leave immediately. People who delay can get trapped by fire, by smoke, or by traffic jams on the way out. Wildfire planning guidance from fire agencies says the same thing over and over. Leave early enough that you're never racing the fire itself. Now picture a tornado warning instead. Same word, disaster, completely different correct answer. With a tornado, getting in your car and trying to drive away is often exactly the wrong move. National Weather Service guidance is clear that a vehicle is not safe shelter from a tornado, and neither is parking under a highway overpass. The move here is the opposite of the wildfire scenario. You want to get to the lowest, most interior part of a sturdy building. A basement, a safe room, an interior hallway with no windows. Staying put and getting low is what saves lives here, not running. Now let's go to something a lot of people have never even thought about, a chemical release. This is where things get genuinely surprising. During some outdoor chemical emergencies, leaving your building can expose you directly to the contamination outside. So the CDC's actual guidance in that situation can be to stay inside, shut your windows and doors, and turn off anything that pulls outside air into your home, like your HVAC system. You seal yourself in and wait for instructions. But if the dangerous release is happening inside your building instead of outside, then getting out becomes the priority. Same category of disaster, chemical emergency, but the correct action completely flips depending on where the danger actually is. Do you see the pattern here? Wildfire, get out early. Tornado, get inside and stay low. Chemical release, it depends entirely on where the contamination is. There is no single instinct that works for every situation. The only way to make the right call is to actually know what you're dealing with in that moment. So now the real question is, why do people get this wrong so often? Why does someone drive straight into a flooded road, or ignore an evacuation order, or run outside during a tornado? Some of it comes down to how we perceive risk. Research on hurricane evacuations has found that people's decision to evacuate is strongly tied to how dangerous they personally believe the situation is, not necessarily how dangerous it actually is. If someone doesn't feel like the storm is going to be that bad, they're far less likely to leave, even under an official evacuation order. And past experience plays a huge role in that perception. If someone has lived through a warning before that turned out to be less severe than expected, they can become less responsive the next time a warning comes in. Their brain quietly tells them, last time wasn't a big deal, so this time probably won't be either. That kind of thinking has been documented around major hurricanes, including Katrina, where underestimating the severity of the storm was a real factor in people choosing not to evacuate. Here's a number that might surprise you. During Hurricane Sandy in New Jersey, even in towns that were under a mandatory evacuation order, only about 42.5% of people surveyed actually said they evacuated. During Hurricane Irene in one county in North Carolina, only about 27% of residents interviewed actually left, even though the area was under evacuation orders. More than a third of people in that study said they didn't even remember getting an evacuation notice for their home in the first place. So mandatory does not mean everyone leaves, not even close. And it's important to say clearly, this isn't just people being stubborn or ignoring common sense. A lot of people don't evacuate because they physically can't. They don't have a car. They're caring for someone who can't be easily moved. They're worried about a pet they can't bring anywhere. They have a medical condition that makes travel risky. or the evacuation message itself was confusing and they genuinely weren't sure it applied to them. This matters because it changes how we should all think about preparedness. It's not really about whether you're a tough, prepared person or a careless one. It's about whether you've actually built a plan before the emergency happens, because in the moment itself, you will not have the time or the clear thinking to figure it all out from scratch. Think about how a real emergency actually feels from the inside. Your phone is buzzing with alerts. Neighbors are loading up their cars. Maybe the power flickers, or the sky changes color, or you can smell smoke that wasn't there an hour ago. That is not a calm moment to sit down and research your options. That is a moment where your brain wants a shortcut, and if the only shortcut you have is a vague feeling of what seems right, you're gambling with something that should have been decided days or weeks earlier. This is also why officials build in advanced planning tools like evacuation zones and designated shelters in the first place. Those systems only work if people actually know their zone, know their route, and know their destination before the pressure is on. Waiting to figure that out live, in the middle of a warning, is exactly how confusion turns into people either freezing in place or making a rushed, risky decision. Let's talk about one more disaster that shows this perfectly: hurricanes and flooding, because this is where a really dangerous myth shows up constantly. The myth is, my house is strong, so I'll be fine if I stay. The CDC directly warns against this kind of thinking. Even a sturdy, well-built house is not guaranteed to protect you from every hurricane hazard. Because with hurricanes, the biggest threat often isn't whether your roof can handle high winds, it's water. Storm surge and flooding are what actually determine a lot of evacuation zones, and they can turn a perfectly solid house into a genuinely dangerous place to be, regardless of how well it was built. So the real question isn't, is my house strong? The real question is my location safe from the water? Those are two completely different questions, and mixing them up is exactly how people end up trapped. And here's the part that catches people off guard. Even the evacuation itself has a hidden danger if you wait too long. Both the CDC and Ready.gov are very direct about this. Never drive around a flood barricade, and never try to drive through floodwater. It doesn't take much moving water at all to sweep a vehicle off the road, way less than most people would guess. So if you wait until the last minute to leave during a flood event, your evacuation route can already be underwater by the time you try to use it. Leaving late through a flooded road can be more dangerous than just staying exactly where you are and waiting for rescue instructions. This is why timing is honestly just as important as the decision itself. It's not only a question of should I stay or should I go, it's a question of do I still have a safe window to actually go? Once that window closes, trying to force it can put you in more danger than staying ever would have. Now, one thing that needs to be said clearly here. None of this is permission to ignore official evacuation orders. If your area is told to evacuate by local authorities, that instruction should not be treated casually. The CDC's guidance literally says never ignore an evacuation order. Authorities issuing that order usually know things you don't. Information about the storm path, flood modeling, fire behavior, or a chemical plume that you have no way of seeing from inside your own house. Staying behind just to protect your property is not worth risking your life over, and that's coming directly from federal health guidance, not just opinion. At the same time, it's worth knowing that evacuation laws and enforcement are not identical everywhere in the country. Different states handle evacuation orders differently, so what applies in one place isn't automatically true everywhere else. The bigger takeaway isn't a legal technicality anyway. It's this. When officials tell you to leave, that's your signal to leave, and figuring out the details in the moment is a lot harder than having a plan ready beforehand. So let's bring this all together, because here's the actual answer to the question in the title. There is no single rule for stay or leave. The right move depends on the hazard, where the danger is located, how much time you have, and what officials are telling you. Wildfire, get out early, don't wait. Tornado, get inside, get low, stay away from vehicles. Chemical release, it depends on whether the danger is outside or inside your building. Hurricane and flooding, it's about your location and your evacuation zone, not how strong your house is. And this is genuinely the most important part of the whole video. The worst time to figure out whether you should stay or leave is after the disaster has already forced you to decide. That decision needs to be made ahead of time, while you're calm, not while you're standing in your kitchen with an alert going off on your phone and 10 minutes to make up your mind. Here's what that actually looks like in practice. Know the hazards where you actually live. Someone in coastal Florida is dealing with a completely different risk profile than someone in Tornado Alley or someone near a wildfire-prone area out west. Know how your local authorities send out alerts, so you're not caught off guard when a warning goes out. Know at least 2 different evacuation routes out of your area, in case one gets blocked or flooded. Know where you'd actually go if you had to leave, whether that's a relative's house, a hotel, or an official shelter. And build a plan for the parts people forget: medications, important documents, pets, and a way to reach family members if phone lines get overloaded. It's also worth being honest about how prepared most people actually are, because the numbers aren't great. A national study looking at survey data from 2020 and 2021 found that around half of respondents said they had no preparedness plan at all, and roughly 2/3 didn't even have a basic emergency supply kit ready. That's not meant to scare you. It's meant to show you that most people are in the exact same position you might be in right now, which means putting even a basic plan together puts you ahead of a huge chunk of the country. The goal here was never to make you afraid of every disaster that could happen. It's the opposite. Once you understand that different disasters need completely different responses, and you actually have a plan mapped out ahead of time, all of this becomes a lot less scary. You're not trying to predict the future or memorize every possible scenario. You just need to know your local risks, know how you'll get warned, and know your options for both staying and leaving, so that when the moment actually comes, you're not making a life or death decision from scratch. If you want to build out that plan further, check the description. There are some resources linked down there that can help you get started. See you in the next one.